Hello and hello. Thank you for joining me today. How are you doing? So, I want to react to this. It's basically a story, from what I understand. It was sent in by Mark. Thank you, Mark. Apparently, it exemplifies just how much more workers are protected and have rights in Germany compared to the United States. All right, let's do it.
More and more people, thanks to the pandemic, are working from home. And when you work from
Okay, so this was 4 years ago, so yeah.
From home, technically you are working
Really feels like just yesterday.
At your office or living at your office. It's complicated, and some legal situations can also be complicated coming from that. So there was a worker in Germany who recently won a legal victory in an interesting case. So the incident
Turning this down a little bit.
that happened was that a man slipped on the stairs and hurt himself while walking to his home office from his bedroom. It was deemed a workplace accident by a German court.
What? Hold on, the implications there are. This is actually difficult for me as an American to comprehend. I'm not gonna lie, because he's not even at work. He wasn't even in his office. He was on the way to his office. But you're entitled to compensation from your workplace during your commute to work in Germany, which in this case was walking down his stairs.
The man had injured his spine while making his way towards his workstation at home and was entitled to compensation according to the Federal Social Court of Germany just earlier this week. The court arrived at this conclusion because it said the man was, quote, on his way to work from his bedroom to the home office 1 floor below, and pointed out that this was a commute along an insured work route.
An insured work route. So does that mean, what if you slip down the stairs on your way out the door to get into your car to go to work in the office? Is that still part of the route? That is unbelievable. What this really shows is just how much, like, on the side of the person and the worker, the individual, like the German court systems are relative to the corporations and the businesses. At least that's what it says to me. Because that's pretty remarkable that they would side in favor of this guy getting compensation.
Now,
slipping down his own staircase. Whoa.
The company's insurance had initially refused to cover the claim, but now they will actually have to.
Here in America, they would laugh you out the door. That's pretty awesome.
So, Brett, what do you think about this? The guy is going to receive some restitution after falling down the stairs or hurting himself on the stairs.
This is the difference between America and Europe in terms of workers' rights. So you'll hear when...
I mean, this is really an extreme case of a difference. Like, I just want basic, like, health insurance, you know? Like, provided to the people. This is like, this is something I can barely comprehend.
You talk to your conservative friends, they say America is the only country that...
No, of course, I'm not even clear. I don't think this is insurance covered by the state. This is insurance. This is business insurance. But it's obviously the rights being enforced are given to you by some sort of laws, like that you as a worker are entitled to this compensation, I guess.
It really allows you to start a business, and starting a business is terrible and horrible and no good in other countries, and you can't fire anyone in those countries. Now, the labor movement started in America. The first ever recorded strike was in New York when Taylor said, I don't want to go to work because you're not paying me and treating me normal. Ever since then.
Which to me has always just felt like that's just a part of the capitalist process. You know, it's common sense to me. I never understood how a capitalist could be against like labor unions. I just think that's bizarre, like collective bargaining. People unifying together. I mean, obviously, if you're all separate as individuals, you're much, much weaker and ineffective against a corporation. And they know that. And that's super asymmetrical and like dumb. So, yeah, banding together to bargain collectively evens out the playing field, and it seems kind of like capitalist to me.
Europe's been like, all right, good idea. Let's keep doing that. And America's and I think the ultimate.
Yeah, the whole, like the labor unions in America, I really don't know the history of it exactly. All I do know is that it's been systematically dismantled over decades. And it used to be some exorbitant amount of people were in labor unions 60 years ago, whatever. And now today it's quite rare. It's quite rare. They exist, but it's quite rare.
In that is this walk down the stairs where the guy falls and he wins his settlement. Now, I don't feel that's just me describing people's opinions about it. For me, I think it's absolutely ridiculous on face value. And I think that's why it's such a terribly.
This one case, honestly, it sounds like something out of Real or Earson. It's kind of funny, but it's what it like illustrates and exemplifies that like the courts and the systems in place are there to help you, as the individual. And so sometimes it's going to side with the individuals, even in instances where it's like surprising, like really? But that's kind of a beautiful thing.
Amazing story from like a clickbait perspective. But once you get into the details of it, you realize, no, he had to walk on that route. If he was driving to work, ostensibly,
he'd still have to walk down his stairs to get to the car, unless his garage was on the second story.
Overall liability that if it's the case that a insured work route is protected under his insurance, and that involves driving in a normal situation, that would be arguably way more dangerous than just walking down the stairs. So overall, these insurance companies have less susceptibility to a giant lawsuit because people aren't driving to their jobs every day where they're in the most dangerous.
Yeah, so they're let me guess, they didn't lower the premiums. That's my guess. They didn't lower the premiums. Hey, no one's commuting to work. Your premiums are 80% off this month. I doubt it.
Situation.
Yes. So, overall, obviously, I am glad that there are places in the world where workers occasionally win one.
Yeah.
Other than at Starbucks, which is great news. So we'll talk about that slightly a little bit more later on. Look, I'm glad.
And in this case, it's not even like directly at the expense of the business, which it's at the expense of the insurance company, which I mean, I understand, of course, insurance companies, they're there to provide a service and, yada, yada, they're necessary, but man, they're kind of the yuckiest business just by how they have to operate, huh? Like, their profit is entirely determined by how many claims they deny,
that the guy's getting it, but it does seem a little bit weird. And the reason is, and I'm not a lawyer, as everybody knows that. I'm not Adrian Lawrence, as has been noted many times. To me, the reason that you can and should be able to sue a company for injuries you suffer is obligation. And I know what they're saying is that he's obligated to walk down the stairs to his workstation because of work, but presumably he would be doing that anyway. Like, if you slip and fall at work, I think the reason you should be compensated is because you're not in charge of that place and that floor.
Yeah, and they're not just going to compensate you, at least here in America. They're going to be like, what kind of shoes were you wearing? Like they're going to be like, did you follow the signs? Were you following the protocol? And in that instance, if you were following protocol and and it was the fault of the workplace, then you will be compensated here in the States. It's not like it's that bad. Like it does happen. It's just like, wow, this is remarkable. I'm kind of interested to read some comments. I feel like I got the gist of this story. I guess I'll let him finish his point.
They need to make sure that it is safe and reasonably safe. That's why we have regulations. But they don't have any control over what you've done to your stairs.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, hey, the second I guess what it is that like once the company starts having you use your own building, your own residence as a place of work, now they're liable for it, and obviously in many ways that saves them a lot of money by having you use your own home that you're paying the bill for to work from. They're not paying for the mortgage, they're not paying for the rent or the utilities or anything in your house. So like, they're benefiting in all those ways, so they should be liable in some ways. What you don't understand, this guy says, oh, this is the German Mythbuster. What the heck? Perfect. In Germany, you are always insured medically. The difference here is which insurance has to pay the bill. We don't need to sue our employers for medical bills here. Okay. I'm trying to say, he says that what you don't understand. I mean, it doesn't sound like that's that big of a distinction from America, I'm not going to lie. Like, yes, here in America, the question would be which insurance pays the bill. Your medical insurance, assuming you have it. I mean, if you have a job, you probably have medical insurance because you usually get it through your job. Now, you still have to pay for it through your job. You just get a discounted rate through your job. And so the question is, does your medical insurance pay for it, or does the business's workplace, accident insurance pay for it? No matter how much Americans snicker at Europeans, the data connecting quality of life and overall happiness, as well as life expectancy and economic movability, speak for themselves. There are a lot of data points that go in Europeans' direction when it comes to those things. That is true. That is true. Okay. That was a fun story. It was an interesting story. It illustrated an interesting difference between America and Germany. I liked that. Thanks for sending that in. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.